Okay, so the goal for this video is to learn some key terms about division, and we want to be able to apply some divisibility tests to determine if a number can be divided by another. Alright, so first thing, let's look at these key terms. If I had a situation like I've got written above here when I wanted to do 20 divided by 3, what we want to be able to do is say that the number 20 on the top here, that is called the dividend. It is the number that you are starting with. It's the number you're going to divide. And then the divisor, 3, is the number you are dividing by. So essentially, we're taking the number 20 and we're splitting it into 3 parts, or we want to know how many times 3 fits into 20. So that is the dividend divided by the divisor. Now, over here, you get the quotient. What that tells you is how many times the divisor goes into the dividend. And then lastly here, we have the remainder. That's how much was left over after you did that division. Now, 6 remainder 2, or 6 2/3, those are just 2 ways to write it. That 3 on the bottom there, that just is the divisor again. It's the number you were dividing by. Okay. What we want to do is we want to do some divisibility tests and see whether or not you can divide a number by the digits 1 through to 10 without getting any remainder. So these numbers here, these are your divisors. You want to be able to divide the number by these with absolutely no remainder left over. So before we get started on that, what I'm going to do first is look at these two numbers here. Sorry, these two words here. Look at the word number and digit. Some people get these mixed up. They are not the same thing. In this box here, I have the number 2147, and it is made up of the digits 2, 1, 4, and 7. So just like how words are made up of letters, numbers are made up of digits. Okay. These divisibility tests, I would highly suggest you read through these now. So pause the video if you need to and read through them. You're going to need to refer to these as I'm going through the other examples below. All right, let's go through these two examples. And again, you'll need to refer to the notes from above. So make sure you have those written down as we go. So if you want to check to see if a number is divisible by 1, so let's take this number here, 2160. Is it divisible by 1? Yes, every number is divisible by 1, so no thought required there. Next one, is it divisible by 2? Well, the number 2160 is even. Because that last number is a 0, that means it's an even number, which means it can be divided by 2. All right. If we're looking at the number 3, this is where we do something funky. We're going to take the numbers, the digits in the number. We're going to do 2 plus 1 plus 6 plus 0. So again, in the number 2160, we are adding the digits together. We get the number 9. Now that can be divided by 3, which means it is divisible by 3. Now, the rule for number 9, all the way down here, is very much the same, but you want to check to see if it can be divided by 9 instead. Well, 9 can be divided by 9, which means it must be divisible by 9 as well. All right. Now, because it passed the rules for 2 and for 3, that means it actually passes 6 as well. So it has to pass both 2 and 3 to pass 6. We've already checked that, so we know that it's divisible by 6. All right, let's try the number 4. So the number 4, well, it's got to be even, but also the last 2 digits in the number. So 2160, the last 2 digits are just going to be the number 60. Can you divide that by 4? Well, we can just halve it twice. So 60 divided by 2 would go to 30, and then halve it again, we get to 15. 60 can be divided by 4, which means 2160 can also be divided by 4. All right, let's do the rule for number 8 now, because it's very similar. But instead of taking the last 2 digits, we're going to take the last 3 digits. So can 160 be divided by 8? Yes, it can. It gives you 20, which means the original number can be divided by 8 as well. So again, just like 4, you're not dividing the entire number, you're just dividing the end of the number. For 4, it's the last 2 digits. For 8, it's the last 3 digits. All right, let's do the rules for 5. Well, the final digit in 2160 is a 0. Now 5, it just needs to end in either a 0 or a 5. So very good. Now for the rule for 10 is much the same, but it can only end in a 0, not a 5. But ends in a 0, we're all good. Lastly, we have 7. This number can be divided by 7, but we do not have a rule for it. So you're just going to have to use a calculator for that one. Okay, let's move over to the right side now, where we've got the number 271. This number is not going to be divisible by any of the following. So let's see why. I mean, 1, it can actually be divided by 1, or every number can. But 2, cannot. Why? It's an odd number. Now, because it's an odd number, that immediately means it can't be divided by any of these other even numbers. So that's always a really good one to check. If it's an odd number, immediately you know it can't be divided by an even number. All right, what about 3? Let's do the same thing as before. Let's add the digits together and we get 10. Well, can you divide 10 by 3? No, you cannot. You'd have a remainder, so can't divide the original number by 3 either. Now, just like with 3, 10 cannot be divided by 9 either, so no bueno there. 5 doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, so that's not going to work. And the number 7, again, use a calculator. We don't have a rule for that one. All right, so those are all the rules being used to test to see whether a number is or is not divisible by the digits 2 through to 10. Make sure you've got this table to refer to whenever you are trying to answer these questions in order to find if a number is divisible or not.